welcome everybody to another special episode of the Weird and Strong podcast. As always, I'm your host, Jeremy Grinsteiner. Today we have the one and only Mr. Mark England, the head coach of Enlifted. He's been an amazing coach, mentor, friend, teacher to me and to many others in the community. And today we talk about all kinds of weird things, starting off with Glenn Frye, D.B. Cooper. We talk a little bit of words, stories, how do we approach work, education, finding our craft and finding our passions and mastery of that craft. So with that, let's get weird. All right. Welcome, Mark. Thanks for being on the Weird and Strong podcast, man.
Great title.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. It's always a fun time getting to spend time with you, even if it is only in Zoom land or internet land. As we do with everybody on the podcast, we're going to start off with a weird question. Are you ready?
Born ready.
Okay. I love would you rather questions, especially when the would you rather question gives you nothing but two options that aren't always all that fun. So, would you rather every time music played, you would hear silence? You'd hear nothing, no music. Or every time music played, you would hear Glenn Frye's "The Heat Is On."
Well, those are two. They both got some real cons to them.
Yeah.
They both got some real cons to them. The first 30, 35 times you hear "the heat is on," it's on the streets. It would be a net positive. And then it would turn into net zero. Mm-hmm. And eventually we'd get to net negative. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty sure the bottom of that net negative of Glenn Frye forever would be a very steep and long descent.
Yeah.
To find. It'd probably drive you nuts.
Yeah. It'll be a real madness. It's like, yeah. Be like, I'm in the loony bin. All I hear is Glenn Frye's "The Heat Is On" every time somebody plays music. Woo. My question is, how long would that take? Could you imagine?
If I knew it was going to be happening forever?
Yeah.
4 or 5 rounds.
4 or 5 rounds? Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, because I would be hyper aware of the entirety of the song. Mm-hmm. And eventually I'd pick out parts that I really don't like.
And start to really focus in on it.
Just like a noise that you can't stop hearing. It would be, and you'd know it was coming. So if it was like, there was some kind of random instrumental, like a cowbell or something, I don't even know. I'm actually going to listen to Glenn Frye after this just to, because we've talked about him so much so far. It would be maddening. Mm-hmm. It would be maddening. And I could see myself lashing out at people for playing music.
You're like, stop.
And I'm the only one suffering. Like they're having a good time and I'm in pain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The same thing could be said about silence too, in some way.
I'd pick silence.
You would?
I would pick silence because I can do all sorts of things with silence. Mm-hmm. And all I would do is I wouldn't even know that there was music playing unless I saw people moving and grooving to it. And most people don't move and groove when they listen to music. Mm-hmm. Not that much. If you really think about it, it's like, okay, dancing at a concert. If I knew a concert was happening, I mean, I could go there and just watch. Mm-hmm. And then, infer the rhythms and the beats based on how people were moving. That would be an interesting exploration. Now that we're talking this through, which is a good thing to do with weird questions, I would take silence immediately.
All right,
fine. I've heard some good music. Mm-hmm. Okay, I got Allman Brothers, Blue Sky, and Sweet Melissa in my head. I'm a Southern rock guy, and I could get Beastie Boys to play in my head if I needed to. So I'd be fine. But Glenn, that would be way worse.
Mm-hmm. Or even just any one song. Yeah.
Any one song.
Mm-hmm.
Any one song.
Too much of a good thing is still too much.
Too much of a good thing is too much, and it would turn it into a bad thing.
Yeah.
Different songs. This is kind of a morbid thing to bring up. Take out the kind of, and it is in context.
Mm-hmm.
When the ATF and FBI were sieging Waco,
mm-hmm.
they played Billy Ray Cyrus. Don't Tell My Achy Breaky Heart. Yeah. They played that over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, those are some mean motherfuckers.
Mm-hmm.
Can we cuss on this?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, you want to see my new socks, dude?
Hell yeah. The F-bomb ones? Hell yeah. Those are just killer. So you had a weird question.
Yeah. I have two now.
Okay.
This one dovetails quite nicely off of how we started. Why Glenn Frye, The Heat Is On?
It's infectious enough. It's upbeat enough. And it's also unexpected. It's not a song that's necessarily at the front of anybody's mind. And so people get caught off guard with the like, oh, many times like when I ask that question, somebody will go, I don't even know what that song is. You hum it for me. They go, oh, that song. I don't know. So
you thought about this, obviously. Mm-hmm. You thought about this. You laid out parameters.
Yep.
And you found a song that fit those parameters. And how many people have you asked that question to?
Say probably about 20 people on this podcast. Damn. On this podcast, only you're only the second one, but I've asked it in person for people. It's a good like icebreaker, especially if it's a person and you're like, all right, what haven't we explored yet? All right, let's get into a weird question and ask something. See how you would react to this.
That's such a superior question to how's it going?
Yeah, absolutely is. We get stuck into our programmatic responses to those things anyways. Even when like I find myself, even when I shake it up on like, hey, what's been the highlight of your day, your week, your weekend? That starts to become the same thing after if you ask it too many times.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Very astute observation. Mm-hmm. Here's my weird question.
All right.
Who do you think won the $1,000 referral cash from the refer somebody to level 1 certs and the winner takes all? Who do you think won that?
Well, I know I got 2 and I know I was in the running. So I'm definitely hoping it was me.
You can stop hoping.
Awesome.
It was you. And the other 2. So $1,200 cash.
Awesome.
Coming to you. We talked, the thing was, it was called this morning during the work meeting. And I was like, well, get a load of this. I'm going to be on a podcast with them and might as well make it weird because it's the Weird and Strong podcast and announce that on air.
Hell yeah. Thank you very much.
You're welcome very much, man. And thanks for sending us some very, very cool, awesome students.
Yeah. You're very welcome. So let's keep the weird going.
Let's do this.
Yeah. Big part of what we do here on the Weird and Strong podcast is we talk about the ways that you show up in the world unconventionally. Mm-hmm. What are the things that make Mark England weird?
I'm unpredictable. Mm-hmm. To myself. Case in point. We're at the farm. We're in the middle of the state of Virginia. We drive, meaning my niece and myself. We drive in, do a little shopping, big city, Richmond. Mm-hmm. And unpredictable, spontaneous, use your I find myself in situations where I'm like, man, I didn't see this coming. And usually that's a net positive. Didn't see that coming. I was like, that's cool. Just on our way to dinner, 3 miles away from Kimberly's house, I just called her last night. I said, hey, well, I'm coming to pick you up for dinner. Mm-hmm. I didn't know I was going to do that. I thought about it for literally a second and then called her. She goes, okay. So went out to dinner with those two lovely ladies last night.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a real spontaneity thing about it. I am weird slash strange slash different in the sense that I've been living out of my suitcase, still am, my name hasn't been on a lease anywhere on planet Earth, Jeremy, since 2001.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is wild.
Yeah, it's wild. Like I have the least attachments, like physical relationship attachments. I can't say what can I say about that? No wife, no ex-wife, no kids, no, I don't own property, nothing. I can, if somebody said, hey, Belize for 6 weeks in a shack on the beach, it's as complicated as this. Shit. It's as complicated as two of these.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm out the door.
Yeah.
I didn't plan that either. It was just a function of going on the offensive and staying on the offensive. Also known as get the ball rolling and keep it rolling with Enlifted.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look around, I was on a text thread this morning with two guys I used to ride bicycles with, and my best friend from college, and we're all friends, and I mean, wives, kids, all the stuff,
Mm-hmm.
houses, animals. One of them's got a farm, and I look at them and I'm like, I'd get bored.
Yeah.
I'd get bored, and I'm sure they look at me like, "Are you kidding me?" Because here's the energy that I love it. I love it. That feeling that you got when you walked out of school,
Mm-hmm.
the year was over for summer.
Yeah.
And you walk out and you just have that
the big energy shift that happens.
For sure. It's a big energy. It's just that feeling of being able to move,
mm-hmm.
And space in front to create stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, and this, the COVID thing, that was that put a stop on me traveling.
Mm-hmm.
I was in Virginia. I haven't been in Virginia for that long in 20 years.
Wow.
And so from early 2020 to now, I'm still here, it's been fantastic for a number of reasons. And I just got back from the Texas tirade. So you're aware of this, and for all your listeners, what's the Texas tirade? The Texas tirade. I got in the truck and drove down to Texas from Virginia, and did a bunch of workshops and podcasts. I was like, yeah, this is why I've orchestrated my life the way I have.
Mm-hmm.
This is why. One, I'm good at it. I've done enough of it. I've done a ton of it. And two, I enjoy it. One person called it flying by the seat of your pants. That to me is normal.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is normal.
Yeah.
So
very cool. There's a sense of, one of the books that was recommended reading when I took the level 1 certification was Be More Pirate. And I remember this wildly popular movie series that came out around 2003 called Pirates of the Caribbean.
Mm.
When that came out, I was like, oh, this is so awesome. I want to be a pirate. I want to get on a ship and just go sail. And yeah, it's like that sense of being able to be the master of your own destiny. When you've got that mortgage hanging over your head, when you've got that attachment to the physical location, it's almost like it's I feel that too. Like that it's almost the same as like a stuck story, where it's like, is that where some of those stuck stories come from?
Those things are manifestations of decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Those are decisions made concrete. No pun intended. If it's got a structure, and decisions can go from the best decision you've ever made to the worst decision you've ever made, or I take out you, put in the best decision I've ever made to the worst decision I've ever made, and all the stuff in the middle. One of the things we did yesterday is we went to a sporting goods store and met one of my buddies, Rick McCoy. That's an interesting, weird side story. So I'll do this and then I'll bring it back.
Hell yeah.
So Rick McCoy, I met Rick McCoy in 1996 at the American Karate Center. And he and I and a handful of roughneck knuckleheads we were the original MMA fight team in Richmond.
Okay.
And he was one of the studs in the gym. And I didn't know this till 15, 16 years after knowing him. So his name is Rick McCoy. And this part of the story is cool, and the next part of the story is unbelievable. So Rick is he's descended from the Hatfields and McCoys.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. He's the first professional MMA fighter in Virginia, and he owns the MMA Institute, which has the strongest professional and amateur MMA fight teams in the state. And he's deep in the legislative bodies of MMA. He's very, very active.
Been doing it for decades at this point.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And come to find out that his dad was DB Cooper.
Really?
I've watched the FBI. I watched a documentary where the FBI said we either need the cash or the parachute from the first jump. So his dad, Rick is Richard Floyd McCoy III. Mm-hmm. His father is Richard Floyd McCoy Jr., who got busted for doing that second jump.
Okay. His
father was a flying cross recipient from the you look like you know what that is. Most people do not know what that is. Yeah, it's the Medal of Honor for the Air Force.
Yep.
Yeah, and he was a helicopter pilot, Green Beret in Vietnam. Mm-hmm. I'll send you the best podcast. He's just recently come out about this. The best podcast that's been done so far on Rick, because there's a lot of people that claim that their cousin, their next door neighbor, their father was DB Cooper. Brandon Powell actually interviewed him on the Grammarica podcast at Rick McCoy's house in Richmond. I'll send that to you, Jeremy.
That'd be very cool.
Very interesting. And so his dad got busted for the second jump, and they have the parachute from the first jump. They found it in one of Rick's grandmother's attics. Mm-hmm. And what happened with the first jump was that he asked for, I forget how much it was, $250,000, $500,000.
Like 250,000 or something like that. Which now you're like, oh, whatever.
Then very big
huge
deal.
Huge
amount. And he was expecting them to bring it to him in $100 bills in a nylon military case.
Mm-hmm. The big duffel bags that you can put on your back. Yep.
That. And they brought it to him in 20s in a silk sack. So he's like, what the hell am I supposed to do with this? He jumps out of the back, the thing explodes, and it goes everywhere. So he got nothing. And he goes back, and Rick's mom was like, "No, motherfucker, you're going and doing that again. We need that cash." It's a real Bonnie and Clyde type thing. That's why he did the jump 3 months later.
And got busted for it.
Yeah, it got busted for it. It wasn't because of the copycat. And then it just gets crazier after that. He was the only person to ever break out of Leavenworth. He hijacked a trash truck and smashed it through a. So anyway, this is Rick. That's Rick.
All right.
And
it's an interesting pedigree, to say it lightly.
Very interesting pedigree. If you'd like to have him on the Weird and Strong podcast, because he's weird and he's strong, I can put you two in touch.
Very cool. Very appreciated.
Yeah, and we were hanging out yesterday, and he talked about my ability to commit to things unsolicited. He just brought it up. To pick a lane and commit and make it simple, and just it's not digging a lane. It's a Panama Canal. That's what we call the certification business that we're in. It's like, this is not our lane. This is our Panama Canal. And he goes, you've done that with your mobility, not physical mobility per se, even though I move a little bit from now and again, but it's if somebody said Thailand in 30 minutes, pack, I can do that.
Yeah.
And then they're like, this is how you're going to live your life till you're 80. Be like, okay. It's like, if I croak, I croak. I live in flip-flops, dude. I live in flip-flops. I couldn't do it in Fargo.
It's a bit cold.
Couldn't do.
Well, we're above zero these days, so
you're above zero these days. Yeah, I make it. I'm in flip-flops 340 days a year. 330, 340. And half of that's for weather, and the other half is for, I don't know,
functions
got to dress up or something. Yeah.
Yep.
So that's when I wouldn't say that it's weird I do say that you take 146-year-old men from Virginia, they're likely going to have more structure or obligations, or I could use words that would paint it in a negative light. It's just my opinion of how to, based on how I want to live. They just got more things keeping them places.
Physical and literal baggage. Yeah, to give it that sort of a picture. So you've been doing that since 2001.
Yeah.
And you said it just happened that way. Was there ever a point where you looked at it, you're like, what am I doing with this? Or has it always been where you're like, no, this is exactly where I want to be and who I want to be?
There was a moment during COVID where I'd been stationary for so long that I forgot why I was living the way I did or do. That was about a 30-second conversation in my head, though.
Got it.
What did come to mind when you asked that is, why am I living the way I'm living? Not a direct thought process like that. And there was when I moved over to Thailand when I was 30 to go to the spa and start a career, a practice of coaching, I had $500 in my bank account and a one-way ticket. I was 30 years old. And while I was on my way over there, I was looking at my other friends who had professional careers, mortgages, way more stability.
Yeah.
Way more stability. That's a neutral word. That's a more neutral word.
Predictability.
Stability, correct. Stability, predictability. And I did think, I was like, man, I hope you know what you're fucking doing. Because I didn't know anyone who was a coach. I didn't know anyone who'd made it work. Nothing. Only the desire to do it.
Yeah.
Only the desire to do it.
And how'd that turn out?
So far, so good.
He's still going.
So far, so good. Still going. Still going. I've been doing that for 16 years. Researching, coaching, and presenting on the power of words and stories. And I'm grateful for it. You've heard me say this many times. I'm grateful for it because it holds my attention and interest. And
what if you have gotten to a similar place had you traded the adventure for the stability?
Then I would have called that a great decision too. I would have called that a great decision too. I am very happy with the life choices that I've made. And all of the bad decisions, quote unquote, bad decisions that I've made were worth it and good and made right in a sense by me really loving what I'm doing right now. You know, someone's like, if you could go back and change, I was like, I wouldn't touch a damn thing. Even the worst parts, even the suckiest parts. Now, I don't know where this path leads me. And I'm up for it. You know, this thing could blow up in my face, dude. This thing could blow up in my face. There's like, be careful how far you climb up there because the fall down gets harder the further you go. Yeah. It could blow up in my face. I could be mortally humiliated in some form or fashion. Because I can play worst case scenario games. Who knows what kind of curveballs get thrown at you.
Knowing what we know is that you can also play the flip side of that.
Correct.
And also talking about the things where you said, quote unquote, bad decisions. Were they truly bad, or were they the lessons that you needed to learn to continue your path?
Yeah.
Like, people around me, we talk many times of like, the lessons present themselves when you're ready to learn them. And you may have been on a path that seemed very stable and very, very solid. And all of a sudden you ran face first into a stop sign that you passed 1,000 times before. And you go, I didn't even notice that was there. And you see it at that time because you're ready for it to be able to make that change and make that next leap.
Yeah, for sure. It took me 10 years. It was right. I've never thought about this. Right around the time, it was when I got off stage at TEDx. I got off stage at TEDx, and that was what it was. And I was just so damn grateful. I was looking back. I'd been doing it for 10 years. This was work for 10 years. And I go, okay, I commit. I don't have any other questions. I'm going to do this thing for 50 years. I'm going to see what happens. I'm a curious cat. Curiosity killed the cat. Satisfaction brought him back. And right around that same time, it might've been that exact same moment. I don't know. I was able to say for the first time, thank God my fight career ended the way when it did and how it did. Thank God. And I meant that because here is way better than there would have been on that path 13, 14 years down the line. And it gives me, like, I'm looking down the driveway right now physically, and it goes into the woods. I can't see what's in there. Right. And let's pretend I've never walked down there. I don't know how far that driveway goes. I don't know how far it goes. I don't know what's on the other side of it, down the hill, over the thing, through the tunnel, nothing. It could be pots of treasure and craft beer with you at Oktoberfest and all the damsels, or it could be a tribe of banditos just ready to chop me to bits and take my shit. And I'm ready for whatever is on this path. What I know is I'm on this path, and I'm going to stay on this path till the end.
Yeah.
And that gives me, I've said these words a lot, or I've used these words. People in the coaching community have heard me use these words, and I've used these words on podcasts, and negation acknowledge, I don't use them lightly. Okay. That gives me existential comfort. That gives me some existential comfort. It's so much shit that I don't have to think about.
Yep.
And I don't, like, you We're in the language game. We're in the words. I don't like thinking, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I really don't like it. I think it's overrated. Take out the think.
When there's this constant script, it feels like a hamster wheel. It's like, when does the hamster wheel stop? And that's what most people in what I've seen more and more and more of and experienced for myself is like, many times what people get drawn to in any modality, whether it's words and breath and stories like we work, or if it's CrossFit or martial arts or weightlifting or yoga, any of these things, many times what people are looking for is that ability to shut your brain off for a second.
So true.
Mm-hmm.
It's so true. I still kickbox,
Mm-hmm.
and I'll get a heavy bag right back there, and that works. That does the job. What really does the job is going into the American Karate Center 25 years later on Saturday morning at 9:30 and sparring.
Yeah.
And when somebody's trying to punch me in my nose, nothing else exists in the universe. And just and you have your music and your weightlifting and all the other stuff that you're into. That's why it's important to get into stuff and get deep in there so you can get lost in it and turn off the rest of the world, you know?
Yeah. Very much, very often, maybe this is parallel to you and your fight career, is that we have this innate ability or drive to turn whatever we love to do into a job. I made a post about this on Instagram about 3 months ago. Of like, there became the point, and yeah, I made weightlifting literally part of my job as a coach, and I also made my own lifting a job. Nobody's paying me to do it. What happened to the doing it for the enjoyment of the thing versus doing it because I'm pushing myself towards an arbitrary number or arbitrary achievement and continually doing that over again. Growth is amazing. Progress is amazing. And it's like, I know this about myself. I've done it in music as well. All right, let's turn the band into a job. How about we just hang out and have fun with it and see what happens and enjoy it? If you talk to or listen to many, many musicians, the ones that are really good and still together, they do it because they love hanging out with each other. They do it because they love playing the music and seeing what happens. I think that's the lesson in life that many of us miss.
Rhys Williamson, I think he was on Rogan talking about this. It was a clip of him. I'm pretty sure it was Rogan, and it doesn't matter. Mm-hmm. He said that, and there was something, he had some neurological study and some big words that stuff's over my head, even if I try to understand it. He said the most potent position to take, he said the hardest people to compete with are the people that keep developing the skill set and that are having fun doing it.
Yes.
He's like, eventually it's like some runner that has an extra gear and you see him break away from the pack. He's like, those are the hardest people to compete with.
100%. I had a similar experience with something exactly of that nature. I had, I believe it was North American Open Series 1 back in 2021. Normally it's held at the Arnold Sports Festival. They didn't have it that year. It was some hybrid version of it because it was still close to the COVID everything. And did the online version where you like set up a camera and you're streaming and people give you thumbs up, thumbs down or whatever. And I had a very poor performance in it. The gym owner, Sarah, at the time, she came in and saw my last attempt of it and saw me very frustrated. She came a couple days later and said, "Hey, let's work on something. Next day that you have some training, come and get me. I'd like you to try something." And we did some role playing around enjoying the lift. All right, walk up to the barbell as if it's your best friend and you're just there to play a game. Walk up with some swagger. Walk up with a smile on your face. Try these things. See what happens. And I was like, at the time, this is a few years ago, like, this is kind of hokey. This is kind of silly. Whatever. I'll play along. I was like, no. We were doing it at lightweight so we could practice it. I had another competition coming up a couple weeks later. Just going for fun, whatever. Went down with some friends. It was down in Minneapolis. So we made the drive down. Stayed the night before. I think it was. Yeah, stayed the night before. Went in there. Had one of the best meets of my life at that time. And I was walking up to that bar with a swagger, with a sense of like, you know what? Y'all think you're going to win? I'm here just to have, like, I'm doing it like I already did it. I already won. And I don't even care about it. The best meets of my life. Fast forward to last July. I completely bombed out in a competition and had the best time of my life. I lost and still had an amazing time because I still had that approach to it. And that's when I knew that, all right, found a different gear on this whole thing. Started to strip away that identity of being a weightlifter. It's like, no, that's something I like to do.
Did the weight feel different?
100%. So that first competition that happened at, I went to touch a weight that it was like a 9 kilo PR, or would have been a 9 kilo PR. It's a huge jump. And off the floor, everything felt amazing, great. It was going good. I was like, I have this. One of the few times I wore a belt, clipped my belt, stopped it. It's like, if it wasn't for the belt, that weight was mine. And I did do that weight, not that long afterwards. And yeah, no, it felt completely different. PR'd my snatch. I think I did PR. It was the first time I clean and jerked 130 kilos. I think I first time I snatched 105 in competition, 130, best total. It was like PRs all around. And it's like, oh, this is a whole different game now.
My grandfather said, you heard me say this. It's so weird. I'm still talking about it. He's my grandfather. He built boats his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
He said, if I ever see somebody smiling while they're jogging, I'll give it a try.
Mm-hmm.
People do not look like they're having fun working out. And I'm pretty damn sure that decreases the lifespan of someone's fitness practice.
Many people. Well, just think about the term working out. How many times can somebody go to a fitness facility and just play and have fun with it? Here up in Fargo, I was on a kick for a long time where I was like, working out is not a word allowed in my vocabulary and around me. We train. We're either training or we're having fun. Working out sounds like a job.
The words we use matter, everybody.
100%.
The words we use matter. We did same thing with working out and working.
Mm-hmm.
We did 90 minutes of awesome today. And
for the folks who are unfamiliar.
Right. Pardon me. Thank you.
It's all right. Many of the folks that listen to this are in on the deal, and also many aren't. Cool.
We do one quarterly. We decided, we picked our pace, and we do a 90-minute group work session. That's what we call them, focus sessions, where we had about 25 people on there today, and every 5 minutes I ring this bell and people go, yes, and breathe in, breathe out, smile, and get back into what they're doing. Now, why do we do that? Okay, that's weird. This is a good podcast to talk about the weird stuff. And so I came up in the public schools. I have a degree in education, and I didn't have any classes, courses, or conversations on how to create a workflow, how to create smooth energy and stay focused and build momentum and complete things. No, it was all memorization of stuff that I can't remember it. 2, I'm glad I don't remember it. 3, what even was that? What was that? What was school? Hey, it's so weird and unnatural for children to sit that long.
Mm-hmm.
And okay, so let's put the rest of the puzzle together. All right, kids, sit there. for 50 minutes. And then, and in the back of your head, it's only second class, second session, second bell. You got 4 more of these things afterwards, different subjects where you're going to go in there and sit down. And then the chances that you're going to be enthralled with the curriculum are super low. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. Enthralled, stoked to be there, on the edge of your seat. What 9-year-old is on the edge of their seat about what they're learning? 12-year-old, 14-year-old in public school. So that means you're very likely going to be bored, which means your mind is going to drift off. And then when the teacher does call your name, it's shocking, snaps you back in, and then they have to ask you to regurgitate something you memorized, which get it right, get it wrong. You're under pressure. Everybody's listening to you. And then that's stressful. And then when you got to do homework, it's like pulling teeth. So you're not enjoying yourself. That means your breathing is trapped in your chest, which means your face is crunched up. And then you add all that together after, just 13, 14 years. If you go into college, that's a whole other thing. And then you take that physiology and psychological patterning into whatever it is you want to do in your adult life. Hello, procrastination. Procrastination. And then, I've been working all day. Guess what? You probably could have done that in 2.5, 3 hours and done it way smoother. Hey, anything sucks. Anything sucks when your face is crunched and you're breathing in your chest. And this is the same thing in the gym. People walking around. It's not resting bitch face. It's active asshole face. Yeah. 100%. I did that.
Yeah. I've likely done that many times too.
Yeah.
Where people are like, hey, what's wrong? Nothing's wrong. Everything's fine. What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? And that bag right back there, I don't know if this is videoed or not, but there's a 6-foot heavy bag. You know what I do now? I'll get on that thing and it's light and I'm smiling, and I will kick the bag and put my foot back down and smile and breathe, because I'm way more interested in changing my neurological association with those movement patterns than I am with, dude, I'm 46 years old. Am I gonna triple the power of my kicks at this stage of the game? No. Mm-hmm. No. And I can improve, which I am and have and will continue to do. I got a little tennis ball I'm rolling my feet on. Mm-hmm. I can dramatically improve my breathing. And then when I go in and spar and I'm breathing well, I used to be the worst breather in the world, which is I was in damn good shape, and I had a bad my cardio was bad. Mm-hmm. Because I was just so.
You're just taking little sips of breath. You're not fully breathing,
dude. A little like I was just sniffing the air.
Yeah.
And now, all I want to do is go in there and breathe and move well, and not get hit. That ship has sailed. I do not like getting hit anymore. Mm-hmm. I just want to, So,
well, back to you were talking about in this idea of the school system and the sitting all this time and the like putting people into these different states, and like similar, we carry it to gyms, we carry it into workplaces. Another area that I've been really interested in like thinking a lot about is, what does that do with our connection to ourselves? Like, how much do people, like, I see this so many times working with beginners in a physical, like personal training space, of how little awareness they have of self physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, because they've been stuck in this box of, you're a hungry 7-year-old in class. How often is it? Well, I'm hungry, teacher. Well, we just had lunch. You got to wait till you go home. Oh, I'm feeling really upset about something. Well, go have that feeling somewhere else, or stop having that feeling. So we get used to stuffing all these things down. Ignore, get this lack of connection to self. And then what happens? We start finding ways to fulfill that connection elsewhere. Food, sex, booze, drugs, whatever, video games, movies, TV. We find this way to disassociate because we don't know how to connect to ourselves. That's my hypothesis lately, anyways.
That it has to affect our core identity. It has to affect our core identity. And more people come out of the public school system with an idea about themselves that they're stupid than people come out of the public school system with an idea about themselves. More people come out of the public school system. Let's just look at what the end result. More people come out of the public school system with the identity, I'm not stupid and I'm not good enough, than people that come out with the identity, I'm smart and I am good enough.
Yeah.
So what does that tell you? Take you out of it. To what does that tell me? That's what I got. That's what I got for my time and attention. And statistically, it's easy to do when you know how to undo it. And most people never get over that.
Yeah.
Until they get in there in some form or fashion and get into those stories. That shit does not magically resolve itself.
Yeah.
And
or if you do, it's by chance, and then you don't know. Well, I did it once. Like, what happened? I don't know. How do I repeat it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fleeting. It's minimized. I just got lucky.
Yeah.
Very rarely do adult achievements remediate childhood wounds. Usually doesn't work that way.
Been, this, been talking with my parents a lot lately. And interesting enough, we're talking about this. My dad grew up somewhere in the middle of 11 kids. Rural North Dakota, like living out on a farm, living in a small town, that many kids, not very well off financially. So having to do things like getting a job when you're a kid, working in the butcher shop, picking rocks out of fields in a harsh climate. Having to do that meant that there wasn't a lot of time to do things like study, pay attention in school, or even go to school sometimes. He struggles with reading, even to this day. Reads at about a second grade level. He's just now retiring. He'll be 69 this year. And like looking at that of like the trajectory and pattern of his life from that identity of I'm not smart enough to read well. He got held back. Kids would make fun of him. He was bigger than everybody. Also strong from working farm jobs and manual labor. So he picked fights with them because that's all he knew. Just beat him up. Like, well, he's just this big dumb bully. Hold him back again and again and again until he's 16 years old in the 8th grade. And he goes, I'm done with this. I'm leaving. But carried that through for so long until he was able to finally believe in himself enough to start his own business. And if you talk to him, he struggles with struggles with the language. And if you start talking numbers and you want somebody to calculate compounding interest on the fly,
bro,
the guy that can memorize, he has everybody's phone number memorized in his brain. You talk about a mathematical savant, didn't have the opportunity because he was stupid and believed it.
Similar story with my dad. He, it was either get that scholarship for football or coal mining.
Yeah.
He was like, I'm playing ball. And he was big and he could run. And he did not enjoy school, didn't do well in school, started his own chain of convenience stores in Richmond in 1980, Lucky Convenience Stores. Was in the game for 42 years. And the dude never turned on a computer. He sold last year. Never turned on a computer.
Wow.
And he can tell you on at the ready what the interest rate was on that loan that he got for that property in 1991. Pick the property, pick the year, just like that.
Knows exactly how much interest he paid. Yep.
The whole thing. Some guy from Boondocks, not even a redneck, a real hillbilly, They were all hillbillies up there, man, like deliverance stuff. And where to go with that? I mean, that's not uncommon. Our next door neighbor over there, Jerry Nixon. You'd meet that guy out at an auto parts store, and what does he like to do? He likes to hunt. He likes to hunt. Likes to take his grandkids fishing, and he was a Vietnam vet. He was a Marine, and he has one of the 2 licenses in the state of Virginia to restore stonework on historical buildings.
Wow.
He's a Grand Master granite smith. Empire Granite. That's his. Up near Charlottesville in Albemarle County, there are $200-300 million estates up there, and they'll contract him out. He'll be on one job site for 3 years.
Wow. Just working, restoring, because he's a master at his craft.
Correct. Yeah. Correct. And everybody's got something that they can be world class at.
Absolutely.
That's and after watching countless hippies, I was on the festival hippie scene there for a few years, 2011, 12, 13, 14. Countless hippies, and I still catch it today. I can hear it immediately when someone says, "I need to find my passion. I need to find my passion." I'm like, wow, no pressure there. That's not stressful at all. I've seen more people stress them out with that sentence. I need to find my passion. So finally, I didn't think about it, Jeremy, and I didn't consider it. I contemplated it. There's 3 levels of thinking, everybody. There's thinking when you do it once. I gave it a thought once. Considering it is when you think about it multiple times. Okay, so you sit with it a little bit. Contemplation is when you stare at something until it reveals its secrets to you. And I was like, there's something to do with this sentence. And here's what I've come to currently with it. And I'm a living example of this. Explore your interests, develop your passions, and commit to your purposes. Explore your interests. What are you interested in? Oh, I think jujitsu is cool. Go do it for 6 months. Go do 2 classes a week for 6 months, and you'll know everything that you need to know about what you want to do with it. And if after 6 months you are still interested in it, there's a good chance you can file that under passions. Okay, get good at that, man. Somebody who's done jujitsu for 5 years will smoke somebody who's done it for no years. Same thing with, how good can somebody get working with you on Olympic lifts 2 to 3 times a week for 5 years?
Oh, they'll be world class. Yeah. I had the moment of, it was like very early in my weightlifting coaching. Like it was a thing I did every once in a while. I was lifting myself. I got my first certification, and then I went for the level 2 certification, and it was a symposium for USA weightlifting coaches in Miami. So I'm here in the room with some of the best senior international coaches. Some of the people in the room are actual past Olympians. I'm just sitting there like, hey, I still see these people to this day. And they're like, oh, hey, how's it going? I was like, this is weird. This is wild. They're crazy. They're just people. Exactly.
They're just people.
And there was a moment where I was like, okay, I've been here for 4 days, nothing but weightlifting from dawn till dusk every single day for 4 days. And I'm like, we got to one presentation, like the second to last presentation. I was like, all right, I think I found my limit. Oh, we got the last one in. I was like, oh, I'm back in. Okay. I think I really love this. Really, really love this, that I could sit here for 4 days and think nothing about weightlifting.
We are speaking the exact same language. How long from when you started weightlifting, how long and how much of it did you do to get yourself to a point where you could sit with the best in the world for 4 days and then make that decision?
Or
observation, because it's more of an observation. It's both, really.
Yeah. It was just about a year of like dedicated to training it. Like I was in the CrossFit world, so it was part of the training, but going dedicated to thinking about this and working on this as my primary thing that I'm interested in was about a year.
And then what happened when you're like, I love this stuff?
It's like I had to make it my job. I had to make it my career. I had to make it my mission.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's the drum roll, folks. I'm racking my brain and I'm coming up goose eggs. I might get something later. And I've thought about this before. Then by definition, I haven't thought about it. I've been contemplating it. And still I come up with goose eggs. I don't know anyone who is able to identify their passion, or excuse me, their purpose at first sight.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I'm sure they're out there, and that's rare. Mm-hmm. Most of the time, I, and I'm about to share my progression with that same formula. We have to develop our relationship with the thing. Most people don't know they're going to marry the person or want to marry the person on the first date. Mm-hmm. Okay. Some do, sure.
Heard many stories of people who are like, they have the first date and they're like, I really don't like this person. And then they get married. It's like, oh, this is weird. What changed? What changed?
And so getting into whatever the thing is and getting better at it, and that's usually what it takes for someone to make the next level of commitment to the thing.
Yeah.
Right. Let me make this simple with a story about me, since we're here. When I saw this thing in 2003, that I went to an emotional detox workshop and I saw a story get turned on its head, and I was like, that's cool. I had no clue that 21 years later, Enlifted would be Enlifted. All I knew is I wanted to learn how to do that. I want to learn how to do that. And I'd only had that experience once before, which is when I got choked for the first time in jiu-jitsu class. I wrestled in high school and I went and took a jiu-jitsu class. I got choked and I'm like, man, that's way cooler than pinning somebody. So like, I want to learn this. I had no clue that I was going to have a compete and do well and win some amateur titles and stuff like that and move to Thailand. All I knew is I wanted to get better at this. Mm-hmm. And as far as the language and the story work is it held my attention the whole way through as I'm learning it. I'm like, man, maybe I could do this. Maybe I could coach. And then I made a decision to do it, and I did. Okay. So now it's not an interest anymore. I explored my interest in it, and my interest was sustained. Okay. This is something I'm passionate about. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I feel more strongly about this now than I did when I first got into it. Okay. Let's file that under, up leveling or evolution of my relationship with the thing. Mm-hmm. And then only after 10 years of doing it professionally, and it happened when I got off stage at TED, a lot happened. That was a seminal moment. I go, I'm doing this for 50 years. I'm doing this thing for 50 years, come hell or high water. I'll live on a couch for the rest of my life. I don't care. If this thing doesn't go, I'm still doing it. I'll find some way to do it. If this thing turns into $1 billion business, which we've used that number, and it's easy for me to contemplate that number when we think about branching out into different languages. Mm-hmm. Okay. There's only so many ways I can piss myself off in Cantonese. And I see this. The app is part of that conversation. Hiring social psychologists, linguists to decode. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to learn Cantonese so I can dismantle the victim mentality of Cantonese or French or Thai, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever. And there's only so many ways I can piss myself off in Spanish. Mm-hmm. And I know that we can reverse. And so anyway, there's a lot of clientele out there. There's a market for this thing. We're ahead of the curve. So anyway, so if this thing turns into that or somewhere in between or blows up in my face, I'm on that path. I've committed to it. It's in my calendar. I'm done January 17th, 2057. You've heard that. Some of the people that have listened to this podcast might have heard that. Some, I don't know who, I don't care. And that's in my calendar. It took me a while to scroll down there and get there. And so I don't have to think about like that anymore. I don't have to think about what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And so we've got 5 certs running right now. So I'm trying to figure out where I said what. Have I talked about the difference between discipline and curiosity versus motivation and inspiration?
Yes.
Yeah.
You said that to me. Yes.
Yeah.
But you could share it for the listeners if you'd like.
Yeah, for sure. I'm convinced that discipline and curiosity will get you across any finish line that you can create for yourself. Because those are 2 extremely powerful forces. That's right. We were talking about the difference between elders and elderly.
Yes.
On the last class, and there's a youthfulness that comes with curiosity, which is you have to have questions. You have to have questions in order to be curious. The moment you stop having questions, is there any room for curiosity?
No, because I've found myself in this trap many times, is that you start to believe your own bullshit that I know everything that there is.
Yeah.
Like I've explored it all the way to the end. And, we look at, you talk to any master of their craft. Yes, they know quite a bit. They've made more mistakes than the beginner, than the intermediate. And also they're still curious about their craft because they still see all the nooks and crannies of things they haven't explored yet. I used to say that the second I stop having questions is when it's time for me to give up.
That's wise. That's wise. And one of the things that helped me get to committing to this, this is the thing that I've wifed, the language game, is, do you know who Dr. Richard Bandler is you've heard of neuro-linguistic programming?
Yes.
Yeah. He's one of the co-founders.
Okay.
And, once upon a time, I took, most of the money from an insurance policy that I got after my mom passed, and traveled around the world going and studying with the founder. I got to 8 or 9 of the founders of the systems that most impressed me at the time that I knew of. There's plenty of great shit out there that I don't know anything about, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of them was neuro-linguistic programming. It's because it's done a great job of helping people. It's real. And so I go and I do practitioner certification in 2011. It's 5 days. And then the 7-day master practitioner, 7 days in 2012. And on that second cert, he's up there and he goes, "This is exactly how I did it. This is the thing, besides watching him work, which I learned more doing that, watching somebody that's good at what they do their thing. I learned more than any manual or anything like that. If you stare at that, you'll take some of that with you. Mm-hmm. The essence of the craft, not necessarily the strategy that they're implementing in that real-time interaction. And so it was watching him work, and then this is what he did. He was up on stage and he goes, "I've been doing this for 40 fucking years." And he threw his hand up like this with 4 fingers out. And I go, "What does that feel like? What does it feel like to be able to say that? What is it?" And okay, so back to curiosity and questions. Look at the question. What does it feel like to say that? Mm-hmm. And then there's only one answer to that question. Or there's only one way to answer that question. There's the right answer. There's only one way to answer that question, and that's to do it for that long. Mm-hmm. And I walked out of there like, I actually walked out of that room like, fuck. Part of me was like, cool.
Mm-hmm. Well, why did you have that feeling of?
Because I was a horrible student in school, and I've taken a lot of bad habits from school into my professional career that and I got a good handle on them now. Sometimes they present themselves and I'm grumpy and I don't feel like doing stuff, and I can get myself, I recognize it quick, and I also know what my strengths are.
Mm-hmm.
I also know I don't have to know everything. It's like, oh God, thanks. And the Enlifted Method is designed to be simple-minded, people friendly. Here, just ask a bunch of questions. Ask some questions, breathe well, which is, you know very well, that can be, there's a whole art to it. Find the stories they haven't written down, and it just, it keeps it fresh. So there's the energy's there. And I'm assuming that there will be part of me that goes kicking and screaming the whole way down this path. I think that's take out the think. I know that is a smart way to perceive the path, right? For me, because if that is the case, then I have anticipated it and I'm not surprised. And if it's not the case, then even better. It's like, yeah, I don't have to be perfect to do this thing for 50 years, nor do I expect myself to.
And what is, it's that question of like perfection being a lie. What is it really? It's some promised land that doesn't exist. And the journey is the actual reward.
It's some wet dream counterbalance to the imposter syndrome and a telephobia.
Yeah.
It's both of those things are ultimately false. And the truth is it's the middle. It's the middle way. I'm smart enough to send some emails and get on Zoom and answer questions. It's like, okay, cool. Yeah. 10 years, man. 10 years. I was thinking about this earlier in our conversation. Kimberly might be coming on with equity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. We like her that much. She likes us that much. She's so damn good at what she does. And, we've had 2 1-hour conversations about it. And if she does, fantastic. And if she doesn't, awesome. She's like, we love her. And if she does, it's a 10-year commitment. You got to learn, y'all. I say this like the general you, and I use the word God. You don't got to do anything. And you want to pull off some seriously epic shit in your life, you got to learn to think in decades.
Yes.
My mentor said that. He said that. He said, you've got to learn to think in decades. Most people are thinking in weekends. They're thinking in weekends and weeks, days, weekends, mostly just days, weekends.
Hours. Some people just get through the next hour, next 15 minutes.
Yeah. Because that whole school thing is still echoing in the background. They're bored out of their mind. Their breath is trapped in their chest, and they're just waiting to get home so they can not think. Watch something, watch some Netflix, just check out. Like I spent most of my public school, just checked out. I got a 3rd degree black belt in the art of daydreaming. Same. And then you bring that neural network into a professional setting of any kind where you have to, you got to produce some results, whether it's waiting tables or
building an app, building a house, whatever it is.
Whatever it is. And so the trick is to pay attention to what you pay attention to, folks. And explore your interests. Identify what you're interested in and go do a little bit of it for 6 months. If the interest is still there or more, proceed. If it's less, pivot. And very likely people can come up with 5 things they're interested. If they thought about it for a full day, said, okay, I'm not doing shit else today. I'm going to drink coffee and I'm going to get 5 things written down that interest me. Even just a little bit. That's huge. You can learn anything you want to these days.
It's all freely available most of the time. Very few secret things out there in the world, which is great.
Yeah. It never has there been an easier time to learn what you want to learn, and never has there been an easier time to be brutally distracted.
That as well. Going along those lines of trying to find the passion, trying to chase this passion, how much does, when people start to explore these things, does this I don't know, trying to rush to the end or like trying to accelerate the results, in your experience, like how often does that derail the whole process?
It's something to consider. It's something to keep in mind. What I think gets more people off out of the purpose category, out of the thinking in 10 years category, is shiny object syndrome.
Got it.
Dude, you gotta, and guess what? You gotta build the gear. It's none of this shit's easy. Nothing that you want to do that's meaningful and worth your time is going to be easy the whole time, right? Because if it was, would it even be fun to do it anyway? No. It's like, you know why weightlifting is fun, everybody? Because you can put the weights down. That's why eating is enjoyable, because you can stop eating.
Yeah.
Right. If you couldn't stop eating, you would hate eating.
Yeah. It would, like, if you had to do it all the time, constantly putting stuff in your face.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. It's just and
again, life, like you said, life is in the middle way. It's not one extreme to the other. It's not all the time. It's not never. It's somewhere in the middle. It's that contrast that allows us to actually see the thing.
Yeah. I've seen that one bite a lot of coaches in the ass. Bit me in the ass more than once. Shiny object syndrome.
And are you saying that from like, I'm going to try this modality, I'm going to get this certification, I'm going to do this and this and this and this, or is it trying to chase different kinds of clients?
I've done that. And so I did that right and I did it wrong. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe I need to, be not that I would, I just say a Reiki practitioner. That's easy to do early on. How would I say this? I had a very annoying thought once. It was story work. It's what the Enlifted Method in its big time infancy. Is this the best way that I can work with clients? Okay. It was less of a, am I making the right choice? Like an identity judgment thing on myself, if that makes sense. It seemed, and still does when I think about it, an ethical question, like a legitimate question about being the most valuable coach, if you want to call it that, for the people that I'm working with. And that got me. That was part of the reason that I went and studied with those people. I was like, well, I've got to find out. It's like a lot of times good questions are annoying questions, or somewhat annoying. There's annoying aspects to them. That's a majorly annoying question. What if I do this for 50 years? Yeah. Because that means I got to focus on this for 50 years. And there's part of me that doesn't want to focus on anything. Okay. And
do you find that with that there's a sense of, like a rebellion against the wanting to do the thing for 50 years? It's like, I'm telling myself to do it for 50 years. I don't want to do it for 50 years. I'm going to try to find a way to make a shortcut to it.
I know that's not. How would I say that? Whatever the opposite of that is what I've done. Okay. And what do I mean by that is that I got so much more relaxed in my physical body when I committed to this thing for 50 years. It was like, I don't have to rush this thing. I can take my time. I don't have to have it now. I don't have to have it tomorrow. The numbers don't have to be anything and oddly enough, that speeded everything up. Oddly enough, that speeded everything up because Now I'm more present with the thing. I can pay better attention to it now.
Could another way of saying that be that you're no longer trying to control the result?
That's true too. That's very true too. Mm-hmm. Like I could, I don't know. I might be ranting and raving about soft talk in 25 years. Mm-hmm. Okay. Just so long as I'm in the game, just so long as I'm in the arena, it checks that box. Get up, go to work, do something under the umbrella of this stuff, and that box is checked.
It's powerful stuff. I know that I've found myself in that, the rush to achieve, or like I have to hit these numbers now. I have to do this year. I need to get to this level of progression. It's like, hey, what's all that about? It's like, what's the finish line I'm trying to rush towards? Really? Like the finish line for all of us is death. Am I trying to rush towards that? Or can I just enjoy it? Can I enjoy the ride a little bit more for what it is?
Since you brought it up, whether I get 50 years or 37 or just so long as I go, I can die well doing that. It's like all I need is 1 second. All I need is half of a second when I'm dying to look back and go, cool.
Yeah.
And if I rep the shit out of this thing, and part of that is creating a bunch of badass coaches or helping people turn themselves into a badass coach. It's a more accurate way of saying it. That's a big deal, dude. Mm-hmm. Like I would imagine it comes across how much I enjoy watching people get better at this stuff and go out there and get in the arena and do sessions and do workshops and start podcasts. And like when I look at what's the best thing I can do with my time here while I'm here, it's teach this stuff. And when you don't feel like teaching, take a nap and get up and drink some coffee and answer more questions in Mighty Networks, because there's a lot of questions to answer. And dude, make this thing even better. Bro, you know how much better I've gotten at this because I'm teaching it now? Exponential. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you. That is the word, point blank. Hockey stick. Mm-hmm. Hockey stick. And that's going to hockey stick again when after I've certified 1,000 coaches, and then whoever raises their hand, I want to certify, because to quote the great Leo Savage, he's right. He goes, your coaches choose themselves. Perfect. Mm-hmm. Good. I don't have to. Yeah. I don't have to. My kickboxing coach, he said the same thing. He goes, you won't know who your champions are going to be. Great. I don't want to have to know. They will self-select. And then I'll be done with 1,000 coaches in 6.5 to 7.5 years. That's a generous estimate. Could be sooner. And then the rest of the time, maybe not the rest, at least the next decade, it will be learning how to support the coaches that certify this stuff. That's a whole thing to figure out that I'll only get to figure it out once I got a little bit of it, enough. Because that, in my opinion, is the metric of a good teacher. How good? Level one, how good are your students? Mm-hmm. Level two, how good are your students? And then it's out of your hands.
Yeah.
Because and then it's out of your fucking hands. Get out of the way.
Creating the ripples.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was in the education track at one point. I was going to be a music teacher. And the introduction to teaching instructor that we had was this like master level teacher. He imparted on some amazing wisdom in that realm of like, hey, I'm here because I did 40 years and continually updating my craft and updating. And now I want to share that with you because I want you to experience the magic of this journey that I had in teaching others. And then eventually you get to be where I am, if that's where you want to be. I was like, ooh, that's really cool.
That, what's every mentor looking for? A protege. Mm-hmm. What's every teacher looking for? Good students.
Yeah.
Any teacher that's got their mind anywhere right. I know that's a bold statement, and I stand by that statement. I've said this. You've heard me say this. I've said this the whole time. Said, I am greedy. I'm a greedy teacher. Give me good students. Because students, and it has nothing to do with intelligence level. It's just people that can get themselves to show up and are willing to go get some reps in, even though they're feeling awkward and insecure. Because no amount of Enlifted level 1 certifications is going to turn that off completely. So, give me the good students, and the rest of the numbers, as in the stuff that needs to happen to keep the lights on, that will absolutely take care of itself. And that relationship is, so, we have our biological family and we have our logical family. The relationship between teachers and students and teachers and then peers, that can, and oftentimes is, not better or worse. It's as powerful as blood family.
Absolutely.
Well,
you see that in coaching relationships as well, where you can create really positive bonds over time. And I've also I don't know if I likely stole the greedy coach aspect of it, and it's
take it.
There's a big part of it where it's like, I'm greedy for the people I work with. I want to see them succeed. I want to see them build themselves up to the highest possible potential that they can. I'm greedy for them.
You get just a handful of people in your corner like that, everybody, who they got your back and they want to see you shine. Especially they want to see you shine no matter what happens to them.
Mm-hmm.
That's the real shit.
Oh yeah.
And but 3, 2, 1, one person like that, that'll see you through, man.
Mm-hmm.
That'll see you through. It's priceless. And guess what? You can be that to other people.
You can also be that to yourself.
Correct. That has to be there. That has to be there.
100%.
That has to be there to long game something.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm going to back up. I don't know if that has to be there. And if it's not, man, that path is going to be harder than it has to be. I feel comfortable saying that than that exclusive that has to be there statement.
Yeah. You can get there without it. And yeah, you're right. It'll be a tough path. There are many people who have gotten there. Yeah. Awesome. In the interest of time, any last thoughts from you on any of the things that we've discussed today, or any final questions that you have?
Please post this or give it to me. I'll post it in the coaches community, because we've talked about some things here in ways that I'm pretty sure, I say that consciously, it's the first time I've spoken about them in these ways. So that's great.
The value of twisting and turning it, looking at it a different way.
Yeah. The value, very much so. No, I'm good, buddy. This was my 327th podcast that I've been on, and 1, it's you, and 2, the name says a lot, strong and weird. I knew this wasn't going to be, hey, so how'd you get into this language thing?
Tell me the story.
Yeah. Tell us how you got started.
Yeah.
And guess what? I've done at least 275 podcasts like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's probably a bullseye number. And I'm beyond happy to do that. Mm-hmm. Beyond happy to do that. Thanks for the opportunity to talk about this stuff again. And I also enjoy podcasts that have a different conversation to them, because it's there's the uniqueness and the spontaneity of it, and I had to think about some of the things that I was saying, a lot of the things that I was saying on this podcast. So, and then I said them differently, which I find it interesting when I say things differently about stuff that I've spoken about previously, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
even like hear you,
thanks for helping. Yeah.
Yeah. Hearing you twist and turn and backpedal and like, wait, no, I said that in a way I didn't like. That didn't quite land the way I wanted it to. And being able to change that, like, those are cognitive shifts. Those are like creating that understanding for yourself, creating a different understanding for yourself than the by rote memorization or by rote recitation of the story.
Good word. What does recitation mean? Reciting?
Reciting.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. It's always a pleasure to talk. I'm sure we could go for hours and hours and hours if we kept it going.
Yeah, for sure.
We will definitely make this a part 2 and beyond when there's an interest.
For sure. We'll all we need is a couple of weird questions to cue it up, and off to the races we go.
Let it rip.
Thank you, Jeremy. Thanks for being in the community and being such a rad, interesting part of the community, and being as supportive as you are. I mean, you won, dude. You won.
It's an honor and a pleasure.
Yeah. That's cool. It's very cool. I'll message Adam and Kimberly and say that we completed the podcast, and I announced you as the recipient of that cash prize. And now you're ready for Adam to contact you for your payment information.
Awesome.
Yeah. What's your Venmo?
Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much again. And until next time, I'm Jeremy, and you are
Mark.
Have an awesome rest of your day, man.